right? There's still a lot of craziness that's happening on the outside. There's a lot of layoffs. There's a lot of debt. Taxes are going crazy. Inflation is going crazy. People are struggling when it comes to income. I want to tell you, it's not that bright on the outside in the real world. I'm going to play another. Take a look at this. It says, and this is from the same article, the sharp increase to Canada's inflation rate in 2022, check this out, exceeded wage gains. It means that inflation went higher than what people were getting as raises. What's the average raise that someone gets at their company? Maybe 2%, 3%, right? And that was to match inflation. So if the person got a 3% raise, they actually lost money because inflation exceeded the wage gain. Remember, they said that you need $1.7 million in retirement, okay? $1.7 million. That means if you divide that by 20 years, they need $85,000 a year. That's their retirement, right? Now we're putting numbers on it, right? As good as it is here, there's still a lot of doom and gloom on the outside, right? There's still a lot of craziness that's happening on the outside. There's a lot of layoffs. There's a lot of debt. Taxes are going crazy. Inflation is going crazy. People are struggling when it comes to income. I want to tell you, it's not that bright on the outside in the real world. I'm going to play another video. This is a study done by the Bank of Montreal. It's a very, how can I say, trusted study that's done every year. And they're talking about what it takes to retire. You know, the number used to be $1.4 million for someone to retire. We used to say $1 million, then it went to 1.4 million. Check what the new amount is for someone to retire in Canada. All right, let me let that play.
Let's pivot over to retirement. Everyone's sort of that coveted 60 to 65 age group, but it looks like it's going to cost a lot more to retire these days.
That's right. That's at least what respondents in a well-respected survey of retirement intentions indicates. Bank of Montreal conducts this survey every year, and the most recent survey results indicate that respondents believe that they will need to save $1.7 million to be able to retire in the way that they would like. And that's significantly more, Angie, than the $1.4 million that the survey resulted in, or the answer from the survey 2 years ago in 2020. Inflation is the likely culprit. Everybody's worried about rising prices, and it seems that people who are getting closer to retirement are now worried about the effect of rising prices on the amount of money that they're going to have to save to be able to afford retirement. And also, some 44% of respondents doubted that they would have enough to retire as planned.
Wow.
So it's a real problem, right? I want you to know it's a real problem what's happening. Take a look at this. It says, and this is from the same article, the sharp increase to Canada's inflation rate in 2022, check this out, exceeded wage gains. It means that inflation went higher than what people were getting as raises. What's the average raise that someone gets at their company? Maybe 2%, 3%, right? And that was to match inflation. So if the person got a 3% raise, they actually lost money because inflation exceeded the wage gains. If inflation is hovering between 6 and 8%, right? It's bouncing around between 6 and 8%. If the person got 3% wage gain, it erased it, right? So the sharp increase to Canada's inflation rate in 2022 exceeded wage gain, eroding purchasing power for most families, and heightened fears about the future. people are getting worried and more worried about their retirement. Why is that the case, though? Let's continue and see. Let's do a little bit of analysis, shall we? All right. Are you guys ready? All right. Let me know you're still here with me. Give me a thumbs up and let me know that you're still here with me. Let's jump right into it. Awesome. Let's jump into it. So I want to give you a fictional character. Awesome. Great. Awesome. There we go. I want to give you two fictional characters. Their story is real. I would change their name. Okay. Sarah and Tom. Okay. They're a married couple. They're in their mid-30s. Sarah works as a nurse. Tom works as a software developer. And they have a comfortable life. I want you to know their life is very, very comfortable. They live in a nice house. They have 2 young children. Like most people, though, Sarah and Tom, they're concerned about their retirement. And they want to ensure that they have enough money that they're going to live comfortably in what we call the golden years, okay? So if they retire, if they want to retire at age 65, let's say, they're right now in their mid-30s, they're 35, okay? That means they have 30 years to go, all right? They have 30 years that they need to plan until retirement, to age 65. Now, if we do some typical math, right? Let's say that they lived life expectancy. We don't know, right? But let's say it's 85. Let's say life expectancy for them is 85 years old. That means they have 20 years in what we call their golden years, okay? In their golden years. So 20 years is what they need to plan for. They have 30 years to plan for these 20 years. But here's the thing. There's going to be some challenges that they're going to face when they're trying to save enough money for retirement. Now, I want you to understand a couple of things here. Remember, they said that you need $1.7 million in retirement, okay? $1.7 million. That means if you divide that by the 20 years, they need $85,000 a year. That's their retirement, right? Now we're putting numbers on it, right? That also means they need $7,083 a month. Okay? That's what they need to generate. They need something that's going to generate $7,000 a month, according to that BMO survey, right? They need $7,000 a month by the time they're age 65. Now, if they want to do it the traditional way of saving money, they need to save $1.7 million by the time that they're age 65. Let me tell you some of the challenges that this couple is facing, okay? So number one, the first challenge that they're facing is balancing their short-term and long-term financial goals. You see, Sarah and Tom, they have several short-term goals, right? They want to pay off their mortgage, for example. That's a short-term goal of theirs. You know, they want to save for their kids' education. They also want to take a vacation, all right? And these goals are important. But here's the problem that they and a lot of Canadians are facing. Those short-term goals are also competing with their long-term goals for saving for retirement. So it's having some conflict, right? The short-term goals is competing with the long-term goals. What should we save for? Should we save for the short term? Should we save for the long term? How can we do both? And it gets very overwhelming. Here's what they need to do. To overcome this challenge, Sarah and Tom, they need to prioritize their goals. First and foremost, they need to prioritize. They got to focus on paying off the high interest debt first. Many times I will sit with a family, and one of the things, or one of our agents will sit with a family, and one of the things that we see oftentimes is they'll have let's say a $2,000 or a $5,000 credit card. What are they paying in interest on that credit card? 18% minimum, right? But they'll also have $5,000 in a tax-free savings account. How much are they getting on their tax-free savings account from the bank? Let's say they're getting 1% or 2%, right? It makes 0 sense for that person to be paying 18% on a credit card, but gaining 2% on the TFSA. $5,000 credit card, $5,000 TFSA. It makes sense for them to withdraw that $5,000 and pay off the entire credit card. I asked, I said, why are you keeping this $5,000 in the TFSA? Just curious. Oh, I'm keeping it because it makes me feel like I have some money. But I'm sorry, I have to be the bearer of bad news, but you don't really have money because you're earning 2% over here, but you're paying 18% over here. Logically, you're losing 16% compound interest, right? You're losing money. So they need to make sure that they pay off those credit cards, pay off all of those high interest balances before they start putting that money towards certain goals like vacation and things like that, right? And then they can allocate some of that money, some of that extra income, because they paid off towards that credit card, for example. They can put that money, larger portions now, towards their short-term goals, and also more towards their retirement savings. So it's prioritizing, making sure that you have an idea of what should be done first. Do the first things first, right? The second challenge that they have is managing the debt. And we talked about that, right? They have the mortgage, they have the car loan, they have a student loan. They are paying their debts. Don't get me wrong. They are paying their debts. But I want to tell you, if you're paying the minimum payment on the debt, it's never going to go down, right? And Sarah and Tom, they didn't understand that if they just paid the minimum payment, they're just making the banks rich, right? They're just making everybody else rich. So the key is to make sure that they balance and prioritize, and write this down. Pay off high interest debt first. Which debt should you pay off? If you have multiple debts, always pay off the highest interest debt first. And also, they can look at refinancing if they need to refinance. We have many situations where we refinanced the couple's home, right, and brought down their debt load, really brought it down, and increased their monthly cash flow, because all of their monthly cash flow was going towards interest. It wasn't bringing the debt down. And this makes the banks very happy, okay? It makes everybody happy, but the person paying all of the interest. I say this in our financial literacy webinar. Every single time I say it, I make a point to say it, that the people that understand interest, they earn it. And the people that don't understand interest, they pay it. And the quickest way to see which side you fall on is take a blank piece of paper, right? Take a blank piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, all right? And on one side, you list all of the interest that you're paying. So credit card, car loan, mortgage, all those interests, you list them all on one side, and you're going to total it up, all right? Take a period of time, like a month, 3 months, whatever, okay? And on the other side, you're going to list all of the interest that you're earning, right? What's paying you interest, dividends, maybe your investments, whatever you're invested in, how much interest is that paying you? List all of the interest that you're earning, list all the interest that you're paying, and you will see if you're earning interest or you're paying interest, and you will also see if you understand interest. Because if you're paying more than you're earning, I'm sorry, but unfortunately, it means you don't yet understand the principle. Remember, knowledge is not power. People challenge me. They say, Jermaine, no, I understand it. No, it's not understanding if you're not doing it. Knowledge is only power if you apply it, right? If you're using the knowledge. So it's very important. A lot of people don't like when I say that, but it's the truth. And I like to give it real, right? And Sarah and Tom is one of those couples I had to be real with. All right. Then the third challenge is making smart investment decisions. Now, I'm not going to give you investment advice here on this webinar, but I want to tell you that Sarah and Tom, they're not investment experts. Got it? They're not investment experts. They're not sure how they should invest for their retirement savings. They have no clue. Remember, Sarah is a nurse, Tom is a software developer, and they want to make sure that their investments are growing, but they also want to make sure they don't lose money. Who should they listen to? Right? They'll say something like, you know, I'm thinking about putting money in our RSPs. Okay, great. Why are you thinking about putting money in RSPs? Oh, my neighbor is doing it and they said it would be a good idea. Oh, really? Is your neighbor a financial professional? No. What does your neighbor do? Oh, my neighbor is a nurse just like me. Oh, really? So do you think, you know, the blind should be leading the blind? Right? The blind shouldn't be leading the blind. Listen, if I want to get my tooth fixed, I don't go to my neighbor. I go get professional advice, right? I get someone that has a license. They know what they're talking about, right? I want to make sure that people get this clear, because a lot of society today just take other people's word for it. Yeah, it's good to trust your neighbor, right? But you wouldn't let your neighbor do brain surgery or open heart surgery on you or fix your tooth. You would go to the professionals. Why not do that with the most important thing, which is your finances as well, right? So Sarah and Tom, they need to either A, educate themselves, or B, go and get a professional. I like when people educate themselves. I'm going to be honest with you. Why do I like when people educate themselves? Who is the person that cares more about Sarah and Tom's family? Sarah and Tom. They just don't know what to do. But if they knew what to do, who would make the best decisions for them? Sarah and Tom would, right? So it's very important. So these are the three challenges that they need to overcome in order to get there, right? They need to overcome balancing their short-term and long-term financial goals. They need to manage their debt, and they need to make smart investment decisions. But here's the deal. Sarah and Tom needs to do a full analysis of where they're at and what they need to do in order to become successful. They need to sit with the right person in order to become successful, and which they're doing, by the way, which they're doing. So I want to